Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the hushed vastness of his apartment, Daniel's strides resounded with determination, each click of his stilettos echoing against the walls like a spirited battle cry. His rigorous practice session had been in preparation for a complex character he was about to introduce to the world. The role of Diana, an unflinching corporate titan in an upcoming television drama, demanded a perfection that Daniel was fiercely driven to achieve. As he glided before the full-length mirror, the sleek, crisp lines of his pencil skirt and the immaculate white blouse seemed to become a second skin. He stood tall, adjusting his posture to exude the unyielding confidence of his character. With a whispered self-encouragement, "You embody strength. Own it." His transformation into Diana intensified. Daniel had an innate passion for the art of method acting, but portraying Diana required unparalleled dedication. When he landed the role of a legendary CEO who shattered glass ceilings in a corporate world dominated by men, he realized he'd embarked on an audacious journey. He'd moved into a sleek penthouse apartment, similar to what his character would own. He'd studied countless videos of powerful women in business, analyzing their mannerisms, speech patterns, and body language. He'd even gone so far as to attend business seminars and meetings in character, testing his ability to blend in and command respect. Now, as he continued his walk down the hallway, Daniel felt a strange sense of empowerment wash over him. There was something about the click of the heels, the restriction of the skirt, that made him feel invincible. He stopped at the end of the hall, turned on his heel, and made his way back to the mirror. This time, when he looked at his reflection, he didn't see Daniel anymore. He saw Diana, confident, assertive, unstoppable. A small smile played at the corners of his lips as he reached up to smooth a stray strand of brown hair back into place.
"Ms. Thompson, your car is ready,"
a voice called from the other room, jolting Daniel out of his reverie. It was his assistant, Mark, who'd been helping him stay in character even when he wasn't on set.
"Thank you, James,"
Daniel replied, his voice pitched slightly higher than usual. He grabbed a sleek black briefcase from the nearby table and strode purposefully towards the door. As he stepped into the elevator, Daniel caught his reflection in the polished metal doors. The transformation was remarkable. Gone was the somewhat shy, unassuming actor. In his place stood a woman who looked ready to conquer the world. The elevator doors opened to reveal a bustling lobby. Daniel took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. He was about to attend a real board meeting at a Fortune 500 company, all in the name of research for his role. The production team had pulled some strings to make it happen, but it was up to Daniel to convince everyone that he belonged there. He stepped out of the elevator, his heels clicking against the marble floor. Heads turned as he walked by, but Daniel didn't falter. He kept his gaze forward, his posture impeccable, exuding an aura of authority that seemed to part the crowd before him. As he approached the reception desk, the young man behind it looked up, his eyes widening slightly.
"Good morning. How can I assist you?"
he asked, his voice betraying a hint of nervousness. Daniel placed his hands on the desk, leaning in slightly.
"Diana Thompson, here for the board meeting,"
he said, his voice smooth and authoritative. The receptionist fumbled with his computer for a moment before nodding. "Of course, Ms. Thompson. They're expecting you in the maple room on the 35th floor." With a curt nod, Daniel turned and made his way to the executive elevator. As the doors closed behind him, he allowed himself a small smile. So far, so good. The maple room was already half full when Daniel arrived. Men in expensive suits milled about, engaged in pre-meeting small talk. As he entered, the conversation dimmed momentarily, curious glances thrown his way. Daniel didn't hesitate. He strode confidently to an empty seat near the head of the table, set down his briefcase, and began to arrange his materials. From the corner of his eye, he could see a few of the men exchanging looks, clearly wondering who this newcomer was.
"Excuse me,"
a deep voice said from his left. Daniel looked up to see a silver-haired man in his 60s peering at him curiously.
"I don't believe we've met. Are you sure you're in the right meeting?"
Daniel felt a flicker of annoyance, but he didn't let it show on his face. Instead, he smiled coolly and extended his hand.
"Diana Thompson, new head of strategic development. And you are?"
The man's eyebrows shot up, but he took Daniel's hand, shaking it firmly.
"Robert Caldwell, CFO. My apologies, Ms. Thompson. I wasn't aware we'd filled that position." "No apology necessary, Mr. Caldwell,"
Daniel replied smoothly.
"I look forward to working with you."
As Robert moved away, looking slightly flustered, Daniel allowed himself an internal sigh of relief. He'd passed the first test, but the real challenge was yet to come. The meeting began, and Daniel found himself caught up in a whirlwind of financial reports, market projections, and strategic planning. He listened intently, jotting down notes and formulating questions based on the research he'd done for his role. When the CEO called for input on a new product launch strategy, Daniel saw his opportunity. He cleared his throat softly, and all eyes turned to him.
"If I may,"
he began, his voice clear and confident.
"While the current strategy has merit, I believe we're overlooking a key demographic."
He went on to outline a detailed alternative approach, drawing on the countless hours he'd spent studying market trends and business strategies. As he spoke, Daniel could see the surprise on the faces around him, slowly morphing into interest, and then respect. By the time he finished, there was a moment of stunned silence before the room erupted into discussion. The CEO, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, leaned forward, her eyes sharp.
"That's an interesting perspective, Ms. Thompson. I'd like to hear more about this after the meeting."
Daniel nodded, feeling a surge of exhilaration. He'd done it. He'd not only convinced them he belonged here, but he'd actually contributed something valuable. As the meeting continued, Daniel found himself being drawn into more discussions. His input was sought on various topics, and he rose to each challenge, channeling the confidence and knowledge of Diana. By the time the meeting adjourned, Daniel was riding high on a wave of adrenaline. As people filed out of the room, several stopped to introduce themselves, engaging him in conversation and exchanging business cards.
"Ms. Thompson,"
the CEO's voice cut through the chatter.
"A word in my office, please."
Daniel followed her, his heart pounding. Had he overstepped? As they entered her spacious corner office, she turned to him, her expression unreadable. "That was quite an impressive performance in there," she said, gesturing for him to take a seat. Daniel sat, crossing his legs at the ankle as he'd practiced.
"Thank you. I'm glad I could contribute."
The CEO studied him for a long moment before a small smile cracked her stern facade.
"I have to admit, when the studio approached us about letting an actor sit in on our board meeting for research, I was skeptical, but you've certainly proved me wrong."
Daniel felt a wave of relief wash over him.
"I appreciate the opportunity,"
he said. "This experience has been invaluable for my preparation."
The CEO nodded.
"Well, Ms. Thompson, or should I say Mr. Daniel," he supplied. "Daniel Foster."
"Mr. Foster," she continued, If you ever decide to leave acting, I think you might have a future in corporate strategy." Daniel laughed, feeling some of the tension leave his body.
"Thank you, but I think I'll stick to playing a CEO rather than being one."
As he left the office building a short while later, Daniel felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. He'd done it. He'd successfully infiltrated a real corporate board meeting and held his own. The experience had been intense, nerve-wracking, and utterly thrilling. Back in his temporary penthouse, Daniel kicked off the uncomfortable heels with a sigh of relief. He moved to the bedroom, intending to change out of the constricting business attire, but paused as he caught sight of himself in the full-length mirror. The person staring back at him was a strange blend of Daniel and Diana. The brown hair was slightly mussed now, a few strands escaping the sleek bun. The white blouse was a bit wrinkled from the long day, and the black pencil skirt had ridden up slightly. But there was something in the eyes, a fierce determination, a newfound confidence, that was entirely new. Daniel realized that in becoming Diana, he'd discovered aspects of himself he never knew existed. The strength, the assertiveness, the ability to command a room. These weren't just traits he was pretending to have. They were qualities that had been within him all along, brought to the surface by this challenging role. With a small smile, he began to change, carefully hanging up the business attire. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new scenes to film, new aspects of Diana's character to explore. But for now, Daniel was content to reflect on the day's achievements and the personal growth he was experiencing through this role. As he settled into bed that night, Daniel's mind was buzzing with ideas for how to further develop Diana's character. The board meeting had given him invaluable insights into the world she inhabited, the challenges she faced, and the demeanor she needed to succeed. The next morning, Daniel woke early, eager to get back into character. He went through his now familiar routine, showering, applying subtle makeup, styling his brown hair into a sleek updo. As he slipped into a navy blue dress, he felt the transformation beginning. On set, the energy was electric. Word had spread about Daniel's successful infiltration of the board meeting, and there was a palpable sense of excitement among the cast and crew. The director approached him as he was getting his final touch-ups in makeup. "Daniel, I heard about yesterday," she said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "I can't wait to see how this experience influences your performance." Daniel nodded, already feeling himself slipping into Diana's mindset.
"It was incredibly enlightening,"
he replied, his voice taking on the smooth, authoritative tone he'd perfected.
"I think you'll see a marked difference in today's scenes."
The first scene of the day was a crucial one. Diana facing off against a rival CEO in a tense negotiation. As Daniel took his place on set, he felt a surge of confidence. He knew exactly how to carry himself, how to project an aura of unshakable authority.
"Action!"
the director called, and Daniel became Diana. He leaned forward slightly, fixing his co-star with an intense gaze.
"Mr. Hawkins,"
he began, his voice cool and measured.
"I think you'll find that your proposal is not just inadequate, it's insulting."
The other actor, playing the rival CEO, bristled convincingly.
"Now see here, Ms. Thompson."
But Daniel cut him off with a sharp gesture.
"No, you see here,"
he said, rising from his seat and placing both hands on the table.
"I've gone over your numbers, and quite frankly, they don't add up. Either you're trying to pull a fast one, or your CFO needs to be fired. Either way, I'm not interested."
He turned as if to leave, then paused, glancing back over his shoulder.
Unless, of course, you'd like to revise your offer. I'll give you 24 hours. After that, I'll take my business elsewhere.
Cut! The director called, her voice filled with excitement. That was brilliant, Daniel. The authority, the confidence. It's exactly what we've been looking for. Daniel felt a rush of satisfaction. The board meeting experience had given him a new understanding of how to wield power in the corporate world, and it showed in his performance. As the day progressed, Daniel threw himself into each scene with renewed vigor. Whether Diana was dressing down an incompetent employee or charming a potential client, he infused every moment with the hard-earned insights from his method acting research. During a break between scenes, Daniel found himself chatting with Lisa, the actress playing Diana's rival-turned-love interest. She was looking at him with a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "You know," she said, "I've worked with a lot of actors who do method acting, but I've never seen anyone commit to a role quite like this. How do you do it?" Daniel considered the question for a moment.
I think,
he said slowly,
it's about finding the truth in the character. Diana isn't just a role I'm playing. In many ways, she's become a part of me.
Lisa nodded thoughtfully. "It shows," she said. "When we're in a scene together, I sometimes forget I'm acting with Daniel. It's like Diana is really there." As they were called back to set, Daniel pondered Lisa's words. It was true. The line between himself and Diana was becoming increasingly blurred. But rather than feeling lost or overwhelmed, he felt empowered. Diana's strength was his strength, her confidence his confidence. The final scene of the day was a pivotal moment in Diana's character arc. After a series of professional triumphs, she returns home to an empty penthouse, confronting the personal sacrifices she's made for her career. It was a delicate balance, showing vulnerability without undermining the character's strength. As the cameras rolled, Daniel moved through the lavish set, his heels echoing in the silence. He paused by the floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out at the glittering city below. Slowly, he reached up and removed the pins from his hair, letting the brown locks fall around his shoulders. He turned to face the camera, allowing a flicker of loneliness to cross his features. But then, drawing on Diana's, and his own, inner strength, he squared his shoulders and lifted his chin.
"Tomorrow is another day,"
he said softly, but with determination.
"And I'm ready for whatever it brings."
"Cut!" the director called. "That's a wrap for today, everyone. Daniel, that was... wow. Just wow." As the crew began to pack up, Daniel remained by the window, still half in character. The day's filming had been intense, emotionally and physically draining, but also incredibly rewarding. He felt as though he'd taken another big step in truly becoming Diana. Later that evening, as Daniel prepared for bed, he found himself reflecting on the journey this role had taken him on. It had pushed him out of his comfort zone, challenged his perceptions, and ultimately helped him grow not just as an actor, but as a person. He realized that through Diana, he'd discovered strengths he never knew he possessed. The confidence to command a room, the resilience to face challenges head-on, the ability to balance vulnerability with unwavering determination. These were qualities that belonged not just to Diana, but to Daniel as well. As he drifted off to sleep, Daniel felt a sense of anticipation for what the coming days would bring. There were more scenes to film, more aspects of Diana's character to explore, but he was ready for it all, eager to see how much further this transformative experience could take him. The next few weeks flew by in a whirlwind of filming, character development, and continued immersion in Diana's world. Daniel's performance continued to evolve, becoming more nuanced and layered with each passing day. One particularly challenging day found Daniel filming a series of emotionally charged scenes. Diana was facing a hostile takeover attempt, fighting to maintain control of the company she'd built from the ground up. The schedule was grueling, with long hours and intense confrontations. As he delivered a particularly powerful monologue, facing down a boardroom full of doubters, Daniel felt a surge of emotion that blurred the lines between actor and character. The words flowed from him with a passion and intensity that surprised even himself.
"I have given everything to this company,"
he declared, his voice ringing with conviction.
"My time, my energy, my heart and soul. And I will not stand by and watch it be torn apart by vultures who care for nothing but lining their own pockets."
He paused, his brown hair slightly disheveled, adding to the intensity of the moment.
"I built this company on innovation, integrity, and a commitment to excellence. And those are the principles that will see us through this crisis. So you can either stand with me and fight, or you can step aside. But make no mistake, I will not back down."
As the director called cut, there was a moment of stunned silence on set before everyone erupted into applause. Daniel blinked, coming back to himself, realizing just how deeply he'd tapped into Diana's emotions. Later that evening, as he was leaving the set, still dressed in Diana's navy blue power suit, the director approached him. "Daniel," she said, her voice filled with admiration.
"What you did today, it was nothing short of extraordinary. The way you've inhabited this character, it's unlike anything I've ever seen."
Daniel felt a flush of pride at her words.
"Thank you,"
he said sincerely.
"This role, it's become more than just a part I'm playing. It's taught me so much about myself."
The director nodded thoughtfully.
"You know," she said, "I think this performance is going to be a game changer for you. People are going to see you in a whole new light after this."
As Daniel made his way home that night, the director's words echoed in his mind. He realized that this role truly had changed him, in ways he was only beginning to understand. The confidence he'd found in portraying Diana was seeping into his real life, changing the way he carried himself, the way he approached challenges. The following week brought a new set of challenges as filming moved to on-location shoots. Daniel found himself navigating real corporate environments, interacting with actual business people who were unaware they were in the presence of an actor. One particularly memorable day had him attending a charity gala in character as Diana. Dressed in a stunning black evening gown, his brown hair swept into an elegant updo, Daniel moved through the crowd with the poise and assurance of a seasoned CEO. He engaged in conversations about market trends and corporate responsibility, drawing on all the knowledge he'd accumulated over the past months. To his surprise and delight, he found himself not just keeping up with the real business moguls around him, but often leading the discussions. As the evening wore on, Daniel was approached by a distinguished-looking man who introduced himself as the CEO of a major tech company.
"Ms. Thompson,"
the man said, extending his hand.
"I've heard a lot about you. Your reputation precedes you."
Daniel shook his hand firmly, slipping effortlessly into Diana's persona.
"All good things, I hope,"
he replied, with a smile that was both charming and slightly challenging. The CEO chuckled.
"Oh, indeed. Your recent handling of the merger with Green Tech was masterful. I must say, I'm impressed." For a moment, Daniel felt a flicker of panic. He hadn't prepared for this level of specific industry knowledge. But then, drawing on Diana's confidence and his own quick thinking, he smoothly steered the conversation to more general topics.
Well,
he said, his voice warm but authoritative.
In business, as in life, it's all about understanding people's motivations and finding mutually beneficial solutions. Don't you agree?
The CEO nodded enthusiastically, and soon they were deep in a discussion about leadership philosophies and the future of the industry. By the end of the conversation, the man was looking at Daniel with undisguised admiration.
Ms. Thompson,
he said as they parted.
It's been a pleasure. I hope we'll have the chance to work together in the future.
As Daniel made his way back to his hotel room that night, he felt a mix of exhilaration and disbelief. He'd just spent an entire evening successfully passing as a high-powered CEO, engaging in real business discussions with actual industry leaders. It was a testament to how far he'd come in his portrayal of Diana. The next morning, as he prepared for another day of filming, Daniel caught sight of himself in the mirror. He was halfway through his transformation into Diana, hairstyled, makeup applied, but still wearing a robe instead of one of her power suits. In that moment, seeing himself straddling the line between Daniel and Diana, he had a profound realization. The confidence, the strength, the leadership qualities he'd been portraying as Diana, they weren't just acting. They were aspects of himself that had always been there, waiting to be discovered and nurtured. This role had pushed him out of his comfort zone, challenging him to find depths of character he never knew he possessed. In becoming Diana, he had in many ways become a stronger, more confident version of Daniel. As he finished dressing, slipping into a crisp white blouse and a black pencil skirt, Daniel felt a sense of gratitude wash over him. This role had been more than just a job. It had been a journey of self-discovery, an opportunity for personal growth that went far beyond his skills as an actor. He left his hotel room with a spring in his step, eager to face whatever challenges the day might bring. Whether he was Daniel or Diana, he now knew he had the strength and confidence to handle anything that came his way. As the weeks turned into months, Daniel's portrayal of Diana continued to evolve and deepen. The line between actor and character became increasingly blurred, not just on set, but in his daily life as well. He found himself approaching personal challenges with the same determination and strategic thinking that Diana would use in the boardroom. One day, nearing the end of the filming schedule, Daniel was preparing for a pivotal scene. It was the climax of Diana's story arc, a high-stakes negotiation that would determine the future of her company. As he sat in the makeup chair, going over his lines one last time, the director approached him with an unexpected proposition. "Daniel?" she said, her eyes alight with excitement. "I have an idea. Instead of following the script exactly, I want you to improvise." Daniel raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Improvise?" The director nodded enthusiastically. "You've become Diana in a way none of us could have anticipated. I want to see where you'll take her in this crucial moment, without the constraints of a pre-written script." It was a daunting prospect, but Daniel felt a surge of confidence. After months of living and breathing this character, he knew Diana inside and out. He nodded, accepting the challenge. As he took his place on set, dressed in a power suit of deep burgundy that complemented his brown hair, Daniel took a deep breath and fully embraced Diana's persona. The cameras rolled, and he launched into the scene. What followed was a tour de force performance. Daniel as Diana dominated the negotiation, his words flowing with a natural authority and strategic brilliance that left his co-stars struggling to keep up. He wove together all the threads of Diana's journey, her struggles, her triumphs, her unwavering determination, into a compelling argument for why she should retain control of her company. As the scene reached its climax, Daniel rose from his seat, fixing each person around the table with a steely gaze.
"Gentlemen,"
he said, his voice resonating with quiet power.
"I built this company from nothing. I've weathered storms that would have sunk lesser leaders, and I'm not about to let it slip through my fingers now."
He paused, allowing his words to sink in.
"So here's what's going to happen. You're going to withdraw your takeover bid. You're going to publicly affirm your confidence in my leadership. And in return, I'll consider allowing you a minor stake in our upcoming expansion into Asian markets."
His lips curled into a smile that was equal parts charm and warning.
"Or you can persist in this ill-advised hostile takeover attempt.
In which case, I'll be forced to reveal some rather interesting information about your own business practices that I'm sure the SEC would find fascinating."
The room was silent for a long moment before one of the other actors, caught up in the improvisation, nodded slowly.
"You drive a hard bargain, Ms. Thompson, but I think we can work with those terms."
"Cut!" the director called, her voice filled with awe.
"That was incredible. Absolutely incredible."
As the cast and crew burst into applause, Daniel felt a rush of exhilaration. He'd done it. He'd navigated a complex, high-stakes scene entirely on instinct, drawing on his deep understanding of Diana's character and the world she inhabited. In that moment, basking in the glow of his achievement, Daniel realized something profound. The journey of becoming Diana hadn't just made him a better actor, it had made him a more confident, assertive person. The skills he'd developed in portraying this powerful woman had become a part of him, enhancing his own natural abilities and pushing him to new heights. As filming wrapped up in the following weeks, Daniel found himself feeling a mix of emotions. There was pride in what he'd accomplished, excitement for what the future might hold, but also a touch of sadness at the thought of leaving Diana behind. On the last day of shooting, after the final scene was in the can and the director had called a wrap on the entire production, Daniel retreated to his trailer. As he began to remove the carefully applied makeup, he caught sight of himself in the mirror. The person looking back at him was neither fully Daniel nor entirely Diana, but a fascinating blend of both. The strength and confidence he'd discovered through this role were now an integral part of who he was. With a small smile, Daniel realized that while he might be saying goodbye to Diana as a character, the growth and self-discovery she had facilitated would stay with him always. This role had been more than just a job. It had been a transformative experience, one that had allowed him to explore and embrace aspects of himself he never knew existed. As he left the set for the last time, still dressed in Diana's clothes, but with his brown hair now loose around his shoulders, Daniel felt ready to face whatever challenges his career and life might bring next. He had learned that true strength comes not from pretending to be someone else, but from discovering and embracing all facets of oneself. The lessons of Diana, her resilience, her strategic thinking, her unwavering self-belief, had become a part of him. And as he stepped out into the bright afternoon sun, Daniel knew that whatever role he took on next, he would approach it with the same dedication, the same willingness to dig deep and discover new truths about himself and the world around him. The experience of becoming Diana had changed him, shaped him, made him more fully himself. And for that, He would be forever grateful.
Thanks for watching my girlies. Be sure to check out Patreon for more.